Hey, I wanted to share my story, and not the story, little snippets that I tell here and there on my stories or, like on my reels. I wanted to actually tell you who I am, and I think after 2 years of my business, that's the least you deserve. And I realized this, you've probably been watching, I've been unboxing and unpacking a lot and redesigning my entire business. And it's because there's a lot of internal shifting happening right now, and I'm unpacking a lot. So I realized that by centering my entire business on social media services and tips and tricks, it's me playing small. I've been playing small lately. And, it's great to start a business. I mean, in a lot of ways, I've been larger than I've ever been, but in a lot of other ways, I've been playing small. And the reason I say that is because I realize I based my entire business on the skills I've learned outside of myself instead of who I innately am. So I've gone through so many things in my 33 years on this planet, and I never talk about them. So there's been some really hard things too, like some really horrible things. And I'm not going to sit here trauma dumping today, but I'm just saying that, if I've gone through those things, why would I not use that pain and those experiences to help other people? And sure, I can still help people with social media. I think visibility coaching and confidence on camera are huge, but they don't really speak to like the depth of who I am and the depth of what I can offer. So basically, I'm going to go back to the beginning, and I'm not going to give you the whole life story, but just kind of the landmarks. And I'm sure that a lot of you could probably relate to this, right? So I was born and raised in Washington. I grew up in a family that loved me a lot, but there was a ton of conflict, and there was a ton of religious and spiritual trauma. Maybe not trauma, but, I grew up being told that the world was one way and feeling in my heart that's like, this cannot be right. And, I had a lot of hardship with my mom, typical teenager stuff, single mom stuff. I didn't have a good relationship with my dad until kind of recently. And when I went to college in Bellingham and Walla Walla. Went from Walla Walla, went to Bellingham, Washington for college. And that was the very first decision I had ever made just based on my intuition, where I applied to the college. I only applied to one college, but then I got out of the car and I took that campus tour, and I just looked around. I remember the parking lot where I was. I remember the overcast weather. I remember all the trees standing up so tall. I remember just thinking like, yeah, this is where I'm meant to be. And that was the first time I ever really listened to that. And I was the good girl. I'm the oldest daughter, right? So I'm getting all the good grades. I'm in National Honor Society. I did swim team in college. I volunteered. I took Spanish. I took my first ever Spanish class when I was 14 years old. So I did all the things you should do. And I got really used to outsourcing that decision making because, my parents knew better, and I wanted to make them happy. And you listen to your parents, you listen to your career advisors, you listen to your teachers, but no one ever really tells you how to listen to yourself. And so I feel like healing and growing up is almost just like going back and wiping away all those opinions of other people, just wiping away. They're just projecting their fear onto you, even if they love you. They're just projecting their fear and their worries onto you, and you have to be able to go back and unpack those experiences. You have to go back and unpack, when did I learn that it wasn't safe to speak up, or it wasn't safe to make money or something, because all those are just other people's projections, right? So again, in college, I made another huge discovery where I was studying manufacturing and supply chain management. And I basically went into college thinking that I have to either do law, business, or medicine to succeed. Those are the three things, right? And I was like, well, I don't want to go to law school, yuck. Med school is going to be even longer, so I guess business, right? So I literally picked my major. I looked at the all the alumni stats, and I was like, which business major makes the most money? And it was manufacturing and supply chain management, which is essentially a degree in logistics. But you took chemistry, you took engineering, you took all these really hard STEM classes. And by the time I was in my third year and I ran out of electives, I was just like, oh my God, I cannot with this, right? I got to that quarter where it was like engineering, finance, economics, and one other thing, and I was like, oh my God, my brain, I can feel it cracking with dryness. It's so horrible. So I had a meltdown, and my dad, bless his heart, is an engineer, so obviously his process is a lot different than my process, and he was the only one I knew that really went to college. And so he had a fit when I told him that I don't want to do manufacturing and supply chain management. I'm like, if I'm going to go into debt, if I'm here at college to like set the foundation for my entire life, like, why am I doing things that I hate? Like every day I hate it so much. Like that can't be the way you're supposed to do it. He totally flipped out and he thought I was saying I dropped out, but I was like, I'm not dropping out. I just want to take a quarter to figure out what the heck I want to do. Come on. I'm in my 3rd year. Like I should really figure out what this is all about, right? And I discovered cultural anthropology. And once I did, like I just had braingasms every day in class. I was like, whoa, what? Like they do this, and like just thinking about the world, and it just really reaffirmed and opened up my world a lot. And I was so grateful for that, because I grew up super religious. And so it was like, I grew up with messages that like, you know, meditation is evil and corrupt. It will corrupt your soul. I grew up with messages like, if you like participate in any of this occultic material like astrology, the devil will come into your heart and he'll never get out. And so that's the kind of messaging that I grew up with. It was all this messaging like, you know, anything outside of the Bible is bad. If you look for answers anywhere else, that's bad and evil, and like it's just so much fear mongering. And I'm like, oh my God. So finally, you know, I get to go to college, I get to go to a new town, I get to experience the meditation club, I get to experience yoga, and I learn about cultural anthropology, right? And so because of cultural anthropology, and because my whole life I've been the good girl, I did like I said before, I've done everything that you're supposed to do, and I did it for everybody else. So finally I graduated college. So many of my friends, they went and did study abroad programs, and my parents, my dad mostly, you know, he was paying for a lot of my college, and he was like, no, you're not going to do that. Absolutely not. And so I was like, fine. So I graduated, and instead of going to any of the career fairs, I was like, I'm going to go traveling. I don't care what any of y'all say. I've done everything you told me to do. Now it's time for me. So I graduated in 2013, and that last quarter or two of school, I was obsessed with traveling the world. And I just like, once I get this idea in my mind, I just will not let it go. Like a pit bull. I just will not let it go. And I get tunnel vision so hardcore on it. And so instead of being like, oh, travel's expensive, I can't go, I was like, no, travel is expensive. How can I go? And that was a huge shift for me. And it's been that shift this whole time, right? So I'm working 3 jobs. I sell all my stuff. Like I sell everything, my car, like there's still things that I wish I wouldn't have sold, but I sold everything. And I learned about travel hacking, which is where you can, you know, get free points from credit cards and like all these travel hacks. And, you know, you can stay for free if you do work exchange or woofing or, you know, couch surfing, all these things. So I just dove deep, and I was like, I'm going to make this happen. And I freaking did. I did do it. So in, 2014, I literally left. I flew out of SeaTac Airport. I flew down to Mexico for 2 months. I fell in love in Mexico. Like, oh my God, that's a whole nother story. One of those like heart-wrenching breakups where you like cry at the airport. One of those. So beautiful. I'll always say I left a piece of my heart in Mexico. I got to stay with my 2nd grade best friend's abuela in Mexico. Like I learned how to make tortillas and papusas totally from scratch in Mexico. And it was so epic and beautiful. I celebrated Dia de Muertos in Mexico when I took my first Spanish class when I was 14 years old, and I learned about Dia de los Muertos and how we can celebrate life instead of grieving death. I was like, well, that's the better way. I want to do that way for sure. And so it had always been on my bucket list to go to Mexico and celebrate Dia de los Muertos. And I made this trip based on everything I'd ever wanted to do. And I went to Mexico for 2 months. I went to the Philippines for 2 months. I went to Thailand for 1 month, and I got this little tattoo in Thailand, no joke, like with a little rod. And I was supposed to go traveling a lot longer, but I got homesick, right? But I did end up being 5 months living out of my backpack. There was times where I'd be at a market in Thailand, and I bought a really cool shirt, and I was like, I really don't have room for this. So like, I have to leave something else here in this market, and I'm sure that the right person will find it, or like, that's how it was. And I worked on farms, I made friends, I lived it up on the beach in Thailand for my birthday one year. Like, it was just so epic. But nevertheless, I was homesick, and my best friend since we were 10, she was having a baby. Well, she had her baby actually. And then my cousin was going through some really hard stuff with her divorce, and I was like, I want to be there for my people. I'm a wanderlust, I'm a wandering soul, but like, I want to be there for my people. So I came back, and bam, met the most gorgeous, tall, dark, and handsome narcissist you've ever seen. Okay. So I fell in love with this guy, went fast, and And I've always been so nice. I didn't know how to say no. I didn't know how to have boundaries. I didn't know how to say, whoa, we've been hanging out every day, all day. Like, can I just have a day? Oh, you're having a fit about it? That's a red flag. I didn't know that. And so that taught me a lot. Me and this person, we'll just call him fiancé. He ended up being my fiancé. We ended up getting pregnant. Well, he convinced me that it was a good idea to get pregnant. And I said, no, like I want to save my money, pay off my student loans, maybe buy a house. And he's like, no. It'll all work out. We're never going to be ready. It's fine. And so we got pregnant. And then crazy thing, I wanted to have an all natural at home birth, and my baby died. And I know it's like crazy to say, but like I had a full labor experience and my son passed away. And so then me and this person are like trauma bonded. We're trauma bonded because we've gone through this thing together, and I was like, oh my gosh, this baby is the only thing keeping us together. I just want out of here, but I can't be that person who just, oh, your son passed away? Okay, and your fiance left you? Like, I couldn't be that person. So we went to therapy. We went to so much therapy. We moved back to Bellingham. We went to this couples retreat, like the Gottman Institute, and we really did try so hard, and I studied relationships, and we went to therapy, we read books, we went to this thing, and no matter what I did, no matter what we did, this could not work. And it was super unhealthy. But the thing is we already had experienced this loss together, and even though I knew the relationship was so toxic, I mean, fights every day about, I left the laundry in the washing machine too long, He touched mayonnaise and has a freak out OCD episode about grease on his fingers. Like that's how this life was. But I felt like I had made that promise to marry him. We had gone through this extreme loss together, and I just felt like I can't leave. Like I've given my life away. And so I knew I had to have a baby because like I had that full-term pregnancy, and I was so excited for the pregnancy, and at the very last minute, literally like that's when we got the news that our son had passed away. So like motherhood was just like ripped out of my hands, and I was like, I know this is so messed up. This is not a person I want to be with the rest of my life, but he's here right now, and I want a baby 9 months ago. And I also had to wait to get pregnant again because I had to have an emergency C-section, so I had to wait for all that to heal. Then I had to get pregnant, and then I had to wait another 9 months, right? And then I had my daughter. And luckily enough, I had a beautiful birth experience with my daughter. Everything went perfect. She was 9 pounds, 3 ounces. I mean, it went really great. And then about an hour passed, and the name that I agreed to give her, the name that me and my partner had agreed to give her was Odessa Camille Marin. And an hour after birth, my fiance just yelled at me, and he's like, I want her name to be Quinn. I want it, and that's what we're gonna do. And I was just holding my newborn being like, oh my God, I cannot let her first out of womb conversation to be this yelling fight. So I just was like, whatever, I don't even care, like whatever, just stop yelling. I was too tired to think. And as I reflect about these experiences, I realized like I paid a really high price for not speaking my truth. I paid a really, really high price for not standing up for myself, because with that home birth situation, I did say, hey, I want to go to the hospital, but I wasn't loud enough about it, I guess. I did say that, and I should have said, hey, we agreed on this name. Nurses, take this guy out of here. He's yelling at me when I just had a baby. Like I should have done those things. And so if I am ever talking about confidence and finding your voice and finding your purpose and projecting your worth and your confidence, it's because if you don't, these horrible things can happen. And those are kind of extreme examples, very extreme examples, but those can happen, right? So we have our baby, and her name is Quinn. I keep forgetting what her name is. I'm like having the worst postpartum depression. And I would like look at my baby and be like, what did we name her? And then I would just end up calling her Bunny, because the name brings up, it still does, the name brings up so much heartbreak of like, wow, my soulmate, my fiance just like yelled at me an hour after I delivered a 9-pound baby. It's horrible. It still gets me, honestly. So unfortunately, things don't change. Like I'm having the worst time. I remember holding my 2-month-old baby and looking at my fiance sleeping, and I remember just thinking like, okay, I'm 25 years old. I'm 25 years old, and all I have to do is deal with this bullshit for 75 more years, and then it'll just be over. I'll just die, and I can just be done. All this will be over. And I recognized at 25, I was like, that's a really horrible thing to think when you're 25. But then the beat down part of me was like, it is what it is. Like, I just want this BS to be done. And again, so when you see me super confident, being really full of myself, exploring and like living my best life and dressing like a queen, it's because not 8 years ago, I was holding my newborn thinking like, you know what, if I just died right now, that would be fine. I mean, I guess that's fine, right? So no, that's why I'm gonna win capitalism. That's why I'm so dedicated to making this life as epic and amazing as it possibly can be, because it's such a gift, right? And like, I try to live for my son too, because like, he'll never do any of the things that I get to do, right? So like, every June 15th is his birthday, and I make that bucket list day, and I invite everybody, celebrate life, do something extraordinary on bucket list day. And that's how I kind of took the Dia de Muertos theme and principle, and I was like, no, I'm going to celebrate life. I'm not going to be sad on this day. Well, I mean, I am sometimes, and that's okay. And grief has taught me a lot of things. But ultimately, I want to present the day with joy and opportunity and liveliness and color, right? So I call my best friend, like going back to, I have this newborn, I'm just waiting to die. You know, I call my best friend. I've had a horrible fight with my partner, and I ran out of the house because said partner got really mad that I didn't clean with Clorox wipes. That was what it was. I was meant to clean the window mold with Clorox wipes, but he took the car, and what I did is I made a bleach solution and cleaned it instead. And no joke, this huge fight erupted. And I got shoved to the ground. With my back turned. And I remember looking up from the ground and thinking, did she see that? And at this time, my daughter was like 4 or 5 months old. And my first thought, did she see that? And that just put everything into perspective. I'd been with this partner for 3 years. We'd lived together. We'd shared bank accounts. And that's when I realized I will not raise my daughter in an environment where her mother is treated like this. I will not do that. So I run out of the house. I'm so angry. I call my best friend, and I'm venting. I'm like, and at this point, we're actually planning our wedding. Like, I have bought a dress. We had a date set and everything. And I didn't want to let anybody down, right? And I call my friend, and she's like, you do not have to go through with this. You don't have to do it. Like, you haven't married him yet. There's nothing legally binding. Like, absolutely, why, like, I love you, but why are you in this? And I just said, well, you know, I can't leave because then I'd have to raise my daughter in a homeless shelter. And she goes, Sarah, I can't believe you even thought that was an option. I will come and get you right now if you want. Or if you could wait till Monday, that'd be cool because I have the day off on Monday. But if you want me to get you right now, I will. She's in Walla Walla, 6-hour drive, right? I'm like, no. I can wait till Monday. I had called her on a Thursday. I was like, I've been dealing with this for 3 years. I can surely wait till Monday. But it's just a good lesson because sometimes we have this problem in front of us and we don't talk about it. We're embarrassed. We don't want to be judged. So we don't talk about it. But then the solution can be so simple. And obviously, I'm not raising my daughter in a homeless shelter, but that was the small limiting belief that was keeping me stuck. And I was like, I can't run away with the dog. We had a dog at the time. Not surprised, probably that dog was being very much abused, underfed, and violence as well. So I was like, I can't leave the dog, but I can't take the dog to the homeless shelter. So Alexis, God bless her, she's like, I'm going to come and get your ass on Monday. If you, for some reason, change your mind, just text me. And you know, with narcissists, you have to have codes, right? You can't just, because they're going to check your phone, right? So the keyword, I had long hair at the time. And if I said to her, you know what, I am going to cut my hair, that was a signal, please come get me. And like I said, we shared a car, so like I couldn't just run away. And every time we tried to have a civil conversation about this isn't healthy, then he would just bring up our son and he would say, our son's up in heaven looking down on us. And like we have our ofrenda and like with his picture on it. He's looking at us right now and he's going to be, our son's going to be so heartbroken if his parents break up or can't make it work. And that's like, oh my God, I couldn't deal with that. I just could not. And either it would go that way or it would go into like another screaming fight. It was just a horrible toxic cycle. So God bless her, Alexis comes to my house in Bellingham. She picks me up. I could not pack before. I could not do anything. It was very much like out of a movie. My daughter, every time I left to go put more stuff in the truck, she's screaming and I'm feeling like the world's worst mother. And no joke, I packed up as much as I could in that truck. The car seat and the car seat base was still in my fiance's car. So after I'm like trying to pack up my whole life, trying to make sense of what I'm doing, and is this really the right thing? I've been thinking about it for years, but is this really right? Oh, and we have to go get a car seat. Just on the way out of town, just stop at Target and get a car seat. But we did it, and I still owe her my life, honestly, to this day. She let me live in her basement. She drove to come get me. And we drove back with a baby and a dog. I didn't even want the dog, right? But I couldn't leave him there. And so we drove, and I lived in my friend's basement. And I got a job serving tables. I was on food stamps. I was nursing. And if anybody has nursed before, you know that if you don't, like, get rid of that milk, like, your boobs just, like, fill up like a bag of rocks. So I'd be sitting there, like, waiting tables, and I can just, like, feel my boobs filling, like, lumpy bags of rocks. And I was like, everybody needs coffee. Like, I can't. Anyways, a whole nother level of intrigue to this story is like, oh my gosh, a nursing mom trying to like work in a busy restaurant while hearing babies crying, and you're like, oh my God. And that's how it's been for me. So that was 2017 when I ran away and I started working in hospitality, and I worked my way up, right? So now I own my home. Now I own my business. And I try every year. I just want my life to get better and better. And I'm trying to live my life like a grand experiment, right? Like, how good can it get? The life that I live right now is so much better than anything I could have ever imagined. If I could go back to my 17-year-old self and say, hey, Sarah, you're about to own your own house, own your own business, make your own decisions, drive a nice car, travel, like, my 17-year-old self would just be like, wow, just drooling. Oh my God, I can't wait to grow up, right? And that's kind of what my situation is right now. So I'm at a good place. I could definitely stop where I am right now. And in those past couple years, I did winery, I did sommelier stuff, I did weddings and events, and I started a wedding business and an event business. I worked in real estate. I think I've talked about the professional development of my life, honestly, but like between my bachelor's degree and between bachelor's degree, bilingual, travel, well-read, all this life experience, starting these businesses, for whatever reason, all those years ago, thank you. I need more of that outlook in my life. Thanks so much. For whatever reason, like, I didn't believe that I could start a business based on those experiences. I didn't think I could start a successful business on just my experiences. I was I wasn't trusting my own self, my own decision-making power again. So when I started this business, The Real Sarah, it's been 2 years ago. I had my first day working for myself, August 1st, 2022. That was my first job working for myself in this social media management business. And that's grown, and I'm very grateful for my clients. I'm still going to offer these services. But like I said, I've just been feeling like, why am I going to offer my whole business and all my energy, all my energy and all my time? Why is it going to go towards like learning this skill of social media when I could help so many people do so many bigger things? Social media is epic and powerful and amazing and transformative, and I love it. But I feel like there's so much more work to be done behind value, behind problem solving. I mean, I went from being in my friend's basement on food stamps to being a homeowner in less than 3 years. And that was in 2017 when I was in that basement food stamp situation. April 2017. By January 2020, I had bought my own house. And then 2 years later, I started my own business. And here we are 2 years later in 2024, right? So it'll be really exciting to see what happens in 3 more years when it's been a full 10 years since that's happened. I've had heartbreak. I wanted to write this book for a long time called The Bad Bitch's Guide to Winning the Breakup, because I feel like between the loss of my son, the loss of my fiancé, and several heartbreaks up and down from then, I honestly have a protocol. Like, oh, you get dumped? Oh, you have grief? Well, watch my 7-step system. I'm not even joking you. I literally can get through anything. And I feel like even just that would be an incredible opportunity for coaching, books, speaking, courses, whatever it takes. So I'm still working on this message. I'm still figuring out like, what's my real gift going to be? Like, social media is amazing, but that's not the legacy I'm meant to give in this world. And so I appreciate anybody. If you've watched this whole video, I've been on here for 26 minutes talking about this. I really want to go forward and I want to offer coaching in a different capacity. So social media coaching ends up being a lot of confidence coaching. It ends up being a lot of, like people are looking at me. Am I worthy? Am I really an expert in my field? I'm not good enough. There's all those messages that come down behind the scenes of like the social media coaching that I already do, honestly. But what if I could work with people who are starting their business, right? I mean, there's so many things I've done just behind the scenes that I haven't documented, like between my money mindset, I talk about my money date that I do every month, So there's so many things that I've done to shift my mindset. There's therapy, there's books, there's exercises, there's mindfulness, there's meditations, there's visualizations, there's vision board stuff. And now I've learned about human design, right? And I'm just like, oh my God, like achievement unlocked. And the thing about my human design is my profile is a 3-6. And the 3 indicates that I'm an experimenter, which makes sense. I mean, I've been in all these different industries and I've done all these different projects, and people in this, with this type of profile, sometimes they'll get messages like, oh, just, why do you have to learn it the hard way? But we're like meant to be experimenters. We're meant to try it out for ourselves because we're going to process the information and be able to deliver that back to people in our own way, right? And then the 6th in the human design is the wise sage. And it's so crazy. I read about this. If you don't know about your human design, I really think you should go look it up, because I learned about this wise sage in my profile, and it was like, your first 30 years are going to be baptism by fire. And I'm like, yeah, you like all that travel, narcissism, relationships, setting boundaries, got engaged, ran away, lost a baby, had a baby, like, yeah, bought a house, started 2 businesses, all by the time I'm 30. Yeah, absolutely. Trial by fire for sure. But I think that it's, like I said, I think I've had multiple lifetimes in this one lifetime. I'm 33 years old right now, and I swear to God I'm 80 or 800 or something. And I really feel like it's my gift to be able to take big complex ideas like travel hacking or starting a business or getting over trauma, or maybe not getting over it, but like working through grief, right? I think that I've gone through these really big things, and I think I can take these big, complex, and scary ideas, hold space for that. I can give practical advice like exercises and journaling prompts, but I can also just help people process. And then we can add in the layer of human design where it's like, let's figure out what your human design is. How do you make decisions, right? Like, what's your purpose in life? Let's work on that. So I'm still formulating my coaching offer and what this even looks like. Business, like I have to do a full rebrand, but I definitely think it's worth it. And I think it's really important for us to contemplate our life, figure out what are our strengths, and like where our interests lie and how we can give back and help people. Because ultimately, what's the point of going through all this stuff, all this pain, if we can't use it to make the world a better place? So that's where I'll leave it today. If you have questions, if you want like a part 2, then put it in the comments. I'd love to hear what you have to say, or write me a message, right? And I think in the meantime, I'd really like some speaking jobs about breaking patterns, some speaking gigs about food stamps to homeowner in 3 years, speaking about being a single mom and entrepreneur. I want to be able to share this story. And because I'm a professional extrovert, I really feel like that's a way that I can give a lot and have that sustained energy to continue to give in that way. So if you know of conferences, or if you know of anybody who needs a keynote speaker and their audience is entrepreneurial women who are resilient and fiery and awesome and digging into how awesome they are, then please connect us. I would really appreciate it. I'm always here for you. I want you to shine bright too. Thank you for watching this full story. I'm always here if you have questions, and I'll leave it at that. Bye.